or do you want to
Hi.
Hey, will you guys move down like one seat?
Yeah. Why?
That way there's like a little space in between us. I don't know, it just feels more natural.
Oh, just so we don't get them sick.
Yeah.
Also, so we're not in
I'm on
video.
this side, so I can get
Casey doesn't want to see the video.
down in the end.
Will someone read the resolution?
The resolution is the USFG should increase exploration of space. Is it of space or
Sorry,
space?
what is that?
Of space. Of space. You need to change your plan? Completely.
The whole thing.
That one.
Probably should be framework to the bottom.
Yeah, you should. Okay. Is everyone ready?
As I will ever be.
Let's take that as a The resolution today states the United States federal government should increase its exploration of space. First, some resolutional analysis points. We want to point out that this is a policy resolution because it contains the word should increase, and so it's demanding an action, a policy action. We ask that you view this through the lens of a policymaker, weighing it through net benefits, saying if our advantages outweigh the disadvantages, we ask that you vote for the affirmative case. First, some background points. Our first is that space operations are coming into the spotlight. NASA just got a larger budget of $19 billion a year with the provision to travel to Mars. SpaceX is increasing its rate of OPS, and the media are increasingly infatuated with space. Look to The Martian, Gravity, Interstellar, Passengers, movies that are increasingly popular in the status quo. Because of this, we propose the following plans. The National Atmospheric and Space Administration, in conjunction with the CDC, should build a medical research station on the surface of the moon. Now, the administration will be Congress, the enforcement. Can you repeat that? The National Atmospheric and Space Administration, or NASA, in conjunction with the CDC, should build a medical research station on the surface of the moon. The administration will be Congress, the enforcement will be NASA and the CDC. The funding will come from deficit spending. Under solvency, first, stable research station in low gravity environment is key to persistent and long-term research. The cost will be $35 billion according to a 2009 independent analysis by the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Deficit spending is currently at $583 billion for the 2015 budget. 3, public health is key in upcoming years of population increase and infection disease strength. Yes, your question.
What's NASA's new budget?
NASA's new budget is $19 billion a year with a provision to travel to Mars. Now, going down to Advantage 1, which is that osteoporosis. The uniqueness point is 1. Cases of osteoporosis is increasing currently. 200 million people in the world worldwide have this disease, and this number is expected to double by 2050. In 2009, 3.79 million people had osteoporosis-related bone fractures, and this is going to increase up to 20% in the coming years. 9 million new cases were reported in 2000 alone. Hip fractures from osteoporosis are expected to increase by 310% in 2050. Secondly, it's expensive chronic diseases with no cure. Osteoporosis is ranked in top 10 most costly chronic diseases in 2015. Cost of hip fractures from low bone density equals $19 billion a year. This will increase to $25.3 billion by 2025. There is no known cure for the loss of bone density. Now let's go down to the links. The plan builds a medical research center in space. The benefits of doing research on the moon is very unique because people in space lose 2% of bone density per month, and they lose this much faster than just on Earth. The plan starts research into the causes and treatments of bone density in space, which will create a cause and a cure eventually. Internal links, not at this time. Internal links. The plan finds a cure for osteoporosis. More research will find a cure. The ALS Bucket Challenge increased research funds by $115 million in 2015, and just last month they found a cure. The rubella epidemic in 1965 killed 12.5 million people. When research increased, they found a cure in 1969. Yes, your question.
So are you actually increasing this research, or are you just building the station?
That will be increasing research by building the station, yes. The impact of this, first, that lives will be saved. Osteoporosis kills 11,000 people a month. Osteoporosis-related fractures occur every 3 seconds in the United States. Osteoporosis hip fractures listed as the main cause of death for 2.8% of people inside the United States. By reversing this and increasing more research, we will be able to save lives. Secondly, the economy will also be helped. Osteoporosis costs U.S. economy $2 billion a year, and every person that has an osteoporosis-related hip fracture or any fracture pays an average of out of pocket for each fracture that they suffer. Going down to second advantage, the United States federal government should, advantage 2 is that infectious disease research. A's uniqueness. Space travel is increasing. NASA recently got an improved budget of $19 billion with the requirement to go to Mars within 25 years. SpaceX and other private companies are increasing in the status quo, and the Dragon platform is set to dock with the ISS. Space travel generates dangerous pathogens. Low gravity space environment exponentially increase the rate of pathogenic mutation and offers insight into pathology of diseases like salmonella. Cosmic rays increase the rate of mutation. Thirdly, infectious disease on Earth are increasing. Population density and international trade travel have increased the violence of disease. 300 new infectious disease emerged between 1940 and 2004, despite increase in diagnostic technique. Taken from World Health Organization 2016. Human population is expected to be 11 billion by 2100, and the CDC is decreasing by 40%, cutting 46,000 jobs. The links is that the plan allows for research on developing diseases in space. The plan adds another research center to damage CDC, and the internal links is that the plan allows for the accelerated predictive research. The A point is stability of a moon base would eliminate the need for repetitive launches and allow for long-term culturing and population analysis. The B point is that the installation of a research center means the risk of accidental epidemic is reduced compared to terrestrial sites. C is that uncovering problems associated with space travel will protect future astronauts from super strains of terrestrial diseases. The second point under this is that the plan improves medical knowledge and technique for future identification of medical meds. The impacts of this is that first, health. The salmonella and other foodborne illnesses affect 550 million people and kill 230,000 people a year. The B point is that research facilities identify and cure diseases. 2011 research on salmonella shows that bacteria bloomed near fluid. Test was conducted in low-gravity environment. The salmonella can be extinguished like polio. At the end of the day, we ask you vote for the affirmative case for these advantages.
Okay, we're just going to go 2 off and on. Case number. Okay.
Are any of them long?
No. None of them are quote-unquote long. Okay. Pardon me if my speech is a little bit off. I feel like garbage. Okay. Everyone ready? Okay. Tag the space debris. The first uniqueness point is that space debris is permitted space debris is a pernicious problem that's on the brink. A is that triangular A is B tracked over 23,000 orbiting objects bigger than 2 to 4 inches. B is that the impacts in orbit occur at over 15,000 miles per hour, causing catastrophic damage. C is 65% of the current space debris is a result of the Chinese ASAT test. 2 is that the U.S. had to rely on space operations. The A is that reconnaissance heat flares, anointing, and monitoring and military communications applications. B is that the Pentagon constellations coordinate communication between naval, land, and air forces. C is that why there was no reciprocation after the Chinese ASAT launch. 3 is that world operations rely on satellites. The A is that SpaceX orbiting communication just launched. What is this? Oh, is to launch 10 satellites in orbit for deliveries and internet services. B is that the resupplied missions to the ISS are needed to preserve the crew. C is that the GPS provided by satellite. GPS is provided by satellite exclusively. Let's go to the first link, which is that space operations create debris. The A is that payload objects are not the only thing crowding low orbiting in Earth. B is that collisions exponentially limit space exploration due to collisions. The I is that 2009 defunct Russian satellite collided with U.S. commercial satellite, causing 2,000 more particles of space debris. The first internal link is going to be that debris prevents world launches. The A is that Kessler syndrome is a cascade mix of is a cascade of impacts resulting from space debris impacts and subsequent devastation. B is that metal storm would overwhelm tracking systems. Let's go to the impacts. The second internal link is going to be that ongoing operations in space are deregulating. The A is that supply and refueling operations are impossible without space debris, creating barrier forces. The ISS crew to store stuff.
To starve.
To starve.
They survive
if they survive the metal storm. B is that GPS satellites are annihilated, and this causes a halt on flights, which causes a breakdown of the food supply lines because we are blind to meteorological events. The impacts are going to be that world capabilities falter. The A is that reconnaissance operations falter as space debris blocks vision and makes collisions inevitable. B is that communications falter as increased strain on the internet occurs for global communications forcing crashes. And yeah, that's bad. The C is that without communication, militaries are cut off, which means that there's going to be higher increased chance of miscalculation, which is bad. The B is that mutually assured destruction goes away and global nuke strikes become a viable military strategy. The E is that this causes a resource war, and the F is going to be that nuclear war is going to turn the case because nothing they have is like better than nuclear war or like less worse than nuclear war. 2 is that econ destruction. The A is going to be that satellite is responsible for global communication and orbital precision. B is that this commerce stops as weather conditions take the U.S. back to the pre-1970 trade. C is that this increases costs for made in China. And then the D is going to be starvation occurs, which is bad. Thus, the counterplan. The counterplan is that the Chinese, that the NASA mission control will boycott all.
We'll boycott the building of the space.
Yeah, will boycott all any building of medical research stations on the surface of the moon. Yes, you can get a text.
Status.
Unconditional. Yeah. Conditional. Okay. A is going to be competitiveness. 1, you can't boycott and enforce something immediately. This means that we're going to have mutual exclusivity. 2 is that any firm would gut the solvency of the affirmative or be severance, which is really bad in debate. The 3 is that it competes through net benefits. We'll get to the net benefit in a second. B is solvency. 1, the plan pressures the U.S. to reform its space policy towards China. 2 is going to be that the plan antagonizes change in the status quo. Let's go to the net benefits, which is space international relations. First uniqueness point is that NASA is limited from bilateral cooperations with China in the quo. PL 113225 prohibits any use of state funds in bilateral action with China. The link is going to be that the counterplan signals a shift in international relations from xenophobia to coalition building. The warning is that this is key to preventing space escalation and opening research opportunities. The internal link is going to be that without cooperation with China, the Chinese NASA rapidly overtakes the U.S. in space tech and coalition building. The link under this is that Russian space programs are increasingly relying on Chinese tech, so NASA will be excluded as a middleman. The impact is going to be 1, space relations are key to the United States hegemony. The warning under this is that without Chinese cooperation, we'll be rapidly overtaken by China and the U.S. In space, which means that China's going to get an increase in military satellite technology, which is going to be bad for the U.S. because China will know more about what we're doing than we will for them, which destroys U.S. hedge. 2, this turns case because the perception is key to international relations, and a shift towards inclusion shields backlash from the disadvantage will turn in case their opportunity cost. Yeah, let's go on a case. Okay, on a case, the first thing is going to be that SQUO solves. SpaceX is colonizing Mars in the status quo, and they're spending their own money to do it, which means that the government isn't necessary to regulate these industries. Additionally, Google has a $500,000 grant for the people, for the first group, to send a satellite to the moon and receive images back from the satellite, which means that SQUO is inherently solving. There are people trying to solve these problems. We don't need to get the government involved. Yes.
Where are you at?
We're on the affirmative context. That's top of case. Against our background point, when they specifically talk about how spotlighting NASA is going up and SpaceX is going up, this is just an extension of SQUO solves. There's no reason to risk the disadvantage at the point where space exploration in the status quo is going up. We don't need to involve NASA to. On their first solvency point, when they talk about how research stations are in low gravity are key to the research. First of all, NASA doesn't have the money to do this. They say that NASA's new budget is $19 billion and that this plan is going to cost $33 billion. Just you can do the math, that's a $13 billion deficit, which means that we're just going to decrease the U.S. economy. There's no way they can claim economy advantages while overspending when the budget isn't there. Additionally, when they specifically talk about how this is going to decrease the deficit, we don't have, wait, what?
For their deficit, for their funding, we say turn, we have none because we don't have that money to fund the plan.
Oh yeah, so they specifically talk about how they have all this money turned. We don't have any money to solve the plan, which means that the impact is going to be irresponsible policy making, which means that the economy is going to be pushed beyond the brink, which leads to economic collapse as a result of the plan because they're encouraging fiscal irresponsibility, which is not good for the government, and we see how it negatively impacts citizens on a daily basis. Additionally, the economy is on a brink now. We're at a 7-year low. Growth has been stunted for the last 2 years. If we look to the U.S. economy in the last sector, it's only grown 0.3% from 1.1 to 1.4, according to Bloomberg, which is really bad. Additionally, on their solvency turn, NASA has no money left because they already have the budget allocated, which means that there is no way that they can just magically reallocate their entire budget to spend the affirmative plan. But even if they could, they don't have enough. On their osteoporosis advantage, specifically talking about the links, when they talk about how the plan is going to build a medical research station in space, 1, there's no guarantee that the medical research station is solely going to be focused on osteoporosis. 2, even if there was a guarantee that this was solely going to be focused on osteoporosis, there's no way that they can guarantee a time frame of insolvency, which means that even if you buy the argument, there's no reason why you should be considering it in the round, because they don't offer how soon this is going to happen, meaning that, judging by how fast the U.S. like colonizes stuff, it's going to be like many, many years before we have like actual terminalized solvency for victims of osteoporosis. Additionally, they're literally not increasing research; they're only providing infrastructure, which means that consumer confidence falls and the economy gets hurt, which leads to an impact of poverty. At the point where they have no guarantee to anything actually happening, they're just providing the infrastructure for it to be set up, which we show now isn't feasible. There's no reason why you would vote on this. Additionally, when they talk about how the economy is collapsed, you can talk about how the economy will collapse because they're overspending. Additionally, this will decrease consumer confidence because they're not actually ensuring solvency, but also you can look at the negative advocacy where we specifically talk about how like the economy is going to be solved on the counter plan. Additionally, space debris will cause the economy to decrease in the status quo, which is another reason why we shouldn't be voting for them and vote for the negative instead. On to their advantage too, which is like infectious disease research, crosses by the same argument we made about how they're just providing infrastructure and no actual solvency. Additionally, every single infectious disease is different. There's no way that they can like simultaneously solve every single infectious disease and guarantee that solvency for all. On their increase in medical knowledge, turn this as a false perception of hope, which leads to no guarantee of solution, which leads to psychological torture that like people are told the situation will be solved, but it actually won't. On their impact of health, once again, you can extend the argument that they're just providing infrastructure, which means there's no solvency, which means they don't have any impact. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Wait. Disadvantage. Same word. Disadvantage first, and then we count.
You're doing disadvantages first,
Yeah.
like half.
No, DA first.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
counterplan. Same order.
Okay.
The DA, I guess we just,
Yeah. You want the DA?
yeah, the DA.
Okay.
The DA.
Right?
Yes.
On disadvantage, the link to first response to this is me turn where they say space operations are clogging due to space debris. But first response to this is a medical center solves for multi-log scenarios. Look to the fact that underneath there are solvency and our advantages, which we talked about how we send so many different missions into space already to try and find cures, and yet because we don't have a medical research center, we are able to keep those people on the ground and be able to continue that research while in space, and thus we have to launch multiple times into space over and over and over again, causing all these different tests. But if we have a medical research facility, we end up stopping the multi-log situation. We have an actual facility, we have a place where we can land, we don't have to send as many ships, we actually turn this disadvantage at the point in which you want to be able to say that space debris is a problem, we actually garner that too. We help to keep multi-log situations from happening. Go to the second response, and this the second response is that the status quo sends mass amounts to space anyway. Look specifically to the Mars mission, not at this time. Also a protected time. Go specifically to the fact that the Mars mission is already sending multiple different devices into space right now. The status quo is literally doing the same thing. So at the very least, there's no link here and no impact. Let's go to the counterplan. On the counterplan, sure, I'll take your question.
Are there going to be more more space launches with the affirmative plan than in the status quo?
No, that's the point. That's what I just said. At the point in which we create the medical facility, we don't send as many launches. We're just able to explore and develop more. All right, let's go to the counterplan. First response rating, this is going to be PERM. We're going to do both. Look to, where's our plan? The National Atmospheric and Space Administration, in conjunction with the CDC, should build a medical research station on the surface of the moon, as well as the NASA mission will boycott all of the plan, or will boycott the Chinese exclusion repeal.
Can you get a text?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Those. Sweet. Move to mutual exclusivity, in which they talk about how the perm just got solvency. It doesn't. We can literally do the same thing. Our plan involves nothing to do with China, nor does it involve China. It's just us gaining the ability to build research medical solutions. Also, to the second response to this is that at the point in which you say that we're going to exclude China, you're just gutting your own solvency because you're not able to control any of the actual actions controlling within U.S. hedge. Go specifically to where they talk about how NASA is being excluded right now. They're going to do the same thing that China. A disadvantage to their counterplan is specifically on the fact that China is just going to backlash to the point in which they feel like they're excluded. It just creates this race between the two of who can battle each other out for more stability. At the point in which we have our plan, we just promote the fact that we want to research medical conditions. It literally avoids all these problems without garnering any others. So let's not look to their plan. Let's literally just do ours. But at the point in which they talk about how China is going to... No. Let's move from that to the case. Sure, your question.
How are you going to boycott something and do it at the same time?
How are we going? We're not boycotting our plan. We're boycotting whatever you're talking about inside of your term. We're just saying that we're going to build a medical facility, also boycotting the China Exclusionary Act. I mean, we think your counterplan's not worth it, but we're willing to say that you can do both because it's non-exclusive. Great idea, it just doesn't apply to the rest. We'll move to the background. They provide a response talking about how the Google and the status quo as well as SpaceX are doing the same thing, which means that the status quo is false. Not actually true. Look specifically to the great articulation that my partner had. We're just saying that the opportunity is here, that we have the ability to do so, so let's do it. We're not saying the status quo is solving it, we're just saying that we have the ability to. Currently, none of these companies that they named are trying to build a medical facility on the moon. The purpose of the medical facility is to garner advantages, which talk about multiple different instances in which we're able to not only promote the ability to be able to solve and cure these diseases, but also get to the point in which we can actually provide a positive impact in the world. We have the ability, which is what our background is saying, we're just not currently using it. So listen to what they're saying and pass the plan. Move down to the solvency, which is about how the NASA budget is too much, and they said do the math here, Judge. This is super great because they actually didn't do the math properly. Look specifically to the fact about how we gave you the entirety of what our mission is going to cost, but that's not an actual annual budget. The NASA annual budget is larger than that because it's multiple years. Our plan doesn't cost us one giant check all at once. It's over the course of many different years. NASA has the budget, they just didn't do the math properly. So my first response on the
Okay, also, we said funding is going to be deficit spending, so solvency at 2.75 billion just last year.
Yeah, also flow through my partner's points underneath funding and solvency, point C, in which we talked about how the $583 billion within the deficit funding, we have the spending available, we have all the money available, it's literally all inside of the text. Going off of the fact that just trying to use multiple different numbers to say we don't have funding isn't true. So go ahead and pull that through too. Go to where they talk about fiscal irresponsibility. It would be irresponsible to not pass our plan. Not only do we have a well-budgeted plan, so it creates the perpetuation of budgeting things properly, but it also provides an atmosphere in which plans are passed based off of the ability to budget things further. So it perpetuates the mindset that allows other plans in the future to look to ours and say, wow, that was pretty great. They budgeted super great. Your little past plans that work as long as we budget properly. Let's not be fiscally irresponsible. So in turn, we garner your impacts there too. Move to the advantage, which they talk about how the first response underneath the link is that they said one, no guarantee, two is no time frame of the solvency. First response underneath this is that's literally fiat. Once you pass the plan, you fiat the plan, we garner the solvency, we garner the guarantees. So the second response is going to be that it is guaranteed. Look specifically to the text, our advantages, and our links. That's like literally what the whole link story was telling you, is the fact that when we pass our plan, this is when research happens. We're already trying our best, but we don't have a center to be able to perform these tests later on in space. At the point at which we gave medical center, we're able to perform these situations without multiple launches. We get rid of your disadvantages, still guard all these advantages. You should definitely pass our plans. Goes specifically to where they talk about underneath the turn, they said that there's none existing research. They talked about how poverty is an issue. Goes specifically to how jobs are being cut because we don't have these medical facilities. At the point at which you want to save jobs, you want to save money, the only way you do that is by using fiscally responsible plans like ours that are well budgeted that help to protect American jobs. Look directly to where we talked about outside of the impacts of the second advantage. The impacts of the second advantage, we're talking about how all these jobs are being cut and these space programs are being altered. And that's because we don't have the ability to be able to continue this, at which we put our perpetuated mindset back towards space exploration. We're able to garner the ability to protect these jobs. When they say that that because we're causing poverty and that all of our plans can cause that all of our plan is going to cause all these different issues, that we can't garner these advantages, we gain them because we're helping to save jobs, we're helping to grow the economy. It looks specifically to their, they cross-applied all these same arguments to advantage too. Pull through all of the responses, they literally all flow the same way. On the
On the turn on advantage 2.
Yeah, I'm getting to that. On their turn underneath the advantage 2, they talked about a false perception of a cure. No, that's what the whole link story was describing. When we put our attention towards this cure, that's the only time we're able to find the ability to find that cure. Look specifically to the ALS water bucket challenge as well. We talked about polio. We talked about the fact that when we put our money and our resources and our mindsets towards these different efforts to find a cure, we do. And the only way that we can, as we showed inside the link stories on both advantages, is when we have low gravity tests. And the only way we can do that without causing our disadvantages is literally with our plan. At the end of the day, if you want to be able to solve the problems of the status quo or perpetuating mindsets that allow for good plans to be passed and advantages to move. Oh yeah, flow through our dropped impact on advantage 1 of lives saved. They didn't touch it, so at the end of the day, we save lives, we garner all the advantages, we don't affect their disadvantage, and honestly, their counterplan is a bad solution, so just pass the plan. Thanks.
Alright, I'm going to be going the turn on advantage 2 first. then DA counter plan with the net benefits. Background Advantage 1. It's going to be an easy ballot for the negative team today at the point at which the perm doesn't function and they completely drop our entire DA links, which means that the DA links into their plan. And finally, with our counter plan, we avoid the links to the DA. That's the reason why you should be voting for the negative team. First of all, let's look at Advantage 2. Specifically on the turn of false perception of hope, they say basically that they're not going to be creating this false perception of hope, and they're going to be creating more of a cure for these jobs, but they ignore what my partner talks about, how because there's no guarantee, there's only guarantee of the infrastructure, not of the cure. That means there will be a false perception of hope. You can look to right now in the status quo how cancer patients, they are given treatments for their cancer and they're told that these treatments are going to work, but the end result and the reality is that these treatments don't work. What the affirmative team is trying to do is say, we're going to just solve all of these diseases. That's literally what we've been trying to do for the past decades. We've been trying to solve these diseases, and we're not going to just do it simply by providing infrastructure to build a space station on top of Mars. That simply doesn't work. So the idea that they're creating a psychological torture, that the impact of this, I'll get to you at the bottom, the impact of this is a psychological torture of these victims from these diseases. They're told that these diseases are going to be solved, but at the point at which the affirmative team themselves, even, we're going to be getting to this later on, but they, even on their plan text, they say that this is going to be happening over many, many years. That is the reason why you should vote for the negative team at the point at which they cause this traumatic psychological torture of these victims. This is dramatically increased because of their plan. That's the biggest reason why you should vote for the negative team. Your question?
So you claim that it doesn't work and we can't guarantee it, but are you directly responding to the fact that we should have this? It's happened in the past.
Right, is that a question?
Yeah, what is your argument there if it's happened in the past? Like,
What
are you basing this on?
The affirmative team talked about how the ALS is happening right now in the SWO, but the problem is they aren't looking at these diseases. We can't compare these diseases just to ALS and say, oh, we're going to automatically fix them. By putting in their plan text and stating it that we're going to be solving these diseases, that is a false statement saying that we're actually solving for them. Go on to the, yeah.
Solvency for all of osteoporosis and every infectious disease is such a multifaceted thing. It can't be compared to the solvency of one disease.
It's such a multifaceted thing. It can't be compared to the solvency of one disease. On to the DA. Their response to the DA, they went all the way down to the links and they said turn the medical solves for all of these places. You can extend what I just said. They literally have no guarantee. They have no solvency for their plan. All they're providing is the infrastructure, which we don't even know if that's going to work. They also do this quote already does. My first response is how do you actually, well, you can just extend what I just said, how does exploring more in space provide a cure for these? Literally all they're doing is providing infrastructure. My second response is the time frame of our impacts happen first. You'll be looking to the DA's impacts first, because our DA impacts specifically talk about how the world capabilities will falter at the point at which they're increasing this space debris. They don't even touch our links talking about increasing space debris will happen. They say that they're going to be avoiding this because just putting a space station on Mars will avoid all the space debris that's happening. But the problem is they have to do that first. Our impacts say, right now, in our uniqueness, we control the uniqueness because they literally said nothing on uniqueness. So we control the uniqueness. Right now, the space debris is on the brinks in space. That means at the point at which their plan is passing, they bite into this DA because the point at which they're trying to put a space station on Mars, they have to do all these trips to actually put it on. That means this DA inevitably happens. We have to, that you can vote on the impacts, specifically if world capabilities are faltering. These impacts happen first. You can vote on time frame because the economy destruction will happen at the point at which they're trying to actually build this space debris, yeah?
They say that long term they're decreasing the number of satellite launches, but at the point where they're enacting any satellite launches in the status quo means that they're launching more than what's in the SWO. Additionally, it's probably going to take a lot of satellite launches.
At the point at which they're actually implementing more satellites, that means it's more than what the status quo is doing right now, which that means there's literally no reason for you to vote for their plan. So the only way to solve this DA is through the delay counter plan. So let's go there now on the counter plan. First of all, they're currently say that the affirmative team fundamentally misunderstands the counter plan. It's boycotting their plan. They cannot both boycott their plan and pass it at the same time. You literally can't do that. If you're boycotting the affirmative plan, there's no way to perm. So onto their DA, they say that China's going to backlash.
right now, we don't allow Chinese workers in America. China is not going to backlash to the point at which America is saying, hey, we're not going to do this space exploration until we repeal this Chinese Exclusion Act so we can actually allow more Chinese workers in. China wants that. China wants the Chinese Exclusion Act to be repealed. There is no DA to our counterplan, and there's no way they can confirm this, which means the counterplan you have 100% access to the counterplan, and they have no access to this counterplan. Then you can go on to, I'll get to your question at the bottom. Next, go on to the net benefits. Extend all of our net benefits of our counterplan. So the two biggest reasons why you should vote on the counterplan is, one, it avoids the DA of more space debris because it is a delay. That means that we'll have more time to be able to develop our technologies and our capabilities, which means that the space debris will dramatically lessen from this delay. Secondly, because of the net benefits of
Space International
of the space international relations, we're going to be increasing our international relations to other countries such as China, so it actually turns back their DA of the counterplan that China's going to backlash, turn that back on them. We increase our relations with China. So those are the two biggest reasons why you should vote for the counterplan and the DA. I have like 2 blips of ink on this sheet. There's no offense against our counterplan and DA. So we have your access to it, yeah?
So what directly is keeping the federal government from repealing the Chinese Exclusionary Act and building our space station? Like, what directly is stopping
No, you misunderstand our counterplan. Our counterplan is boycotting it until we repeal it. We cannot
but what's stopping us from repealing it right now and building our space station?
Well,
We
that's
can't
not
vote.
for us to, like,
We can't boycott something and do it at the same time. Like, the negative
Yeah.
counterplan is to fundamentally boycott the
you
act.
can't, you as the affirmative team cannot fiat the passing of the Chinese Exclusion Act. That is the negative team's ground to do that. You're just, we're just boycotting your plan. On to the case. First of all, with the Squirrel Solves, they say that SpaceX right now, and the opportunity is here, but you can just extend across what my partner said about how SpaceX and Google right now are increasing their exploration on Mars and such. So even if you don't buy our other arguments, you can still see that their arguments really don't stand. There's literally no ink on that. Go on to the deficit turn that we have. We were saying that right now we have no deficit spending, and this leads to pushing the economy over the brink. And they say that this would happen over the course of multiple years. My first response to this is turn. That means there's no immediate solvency, which goes back to the psychological torture and damnation of these victims who are told that they have a cure for these diseases, and in fact, it's happening over several years. Plus, this is what we've been trying to do for decades, and we have not found a cure yet. My second response is this is a shift in the plan text, so don't even give it to them because they're saying, oh, it happens over a long period of time. That's not in the plan text. Probably shouldn't give them that argument. My third response is fiat guarantees the building and the research, but again,
the building, not the research.
the building, but not the research. They're just building the infrastructure. So again, it goes back to that same argument. Then finally, you can extend across what my partner said about how the economy is on the brink now. So ultimately, the Advantage 1 and Advantage 2 impacts, those are the time frame of our impacts to our DA happen before their advantages. That's why you should be voting for the Advantage 2.
Okay, order's going to go, we're going to give disadvantage, disadvantage, counterplan, and then we're briefly going to touch on case.
So same.
Yeah, the disadvantage first, then counterplan. Then we're briefly going to go top of case, and then to the infectious disease advantage. Okay. All right. Everyone ready? Okay. This is a clear ballot for the negative at the point where there is no solvency being garnered from the PERM or the affirmative advocacy. At the point where the negative advocacy is the only one solving for anything in today's round, you must fill out a negative ballot. Let's go to the disadvantage. First of all, when they talk about how turning the medical research solves the number of satellite launches in the status quo, if you enact the affirmative plan, there is going to be at least one more satellite launch in the status quo than there would be without enacting the plan. Reasonably, we can assume that there's probably going to be more than one launch to build a medical research station on the surface of the moon, which means that there is no way that the affirmative can actually guarantee that there's a decrease in space debris that's going to come as a result of the numerous launches it will take to build a medical research station. Judge, this is a gut check argument. You can literally just think of the fact that it'll probably take more than one journey to the moon to build a medical research center sufficient to solve all of infectious disease and osteoporosis. Additionally, our impacts we solve first. Space debris is an immediate problem. We talk about how this is going to lead to a decrease in military hegemony coming from the coming from the negative. We're going to have a decrease in communications, which is going to lead to resource wars because countries can't get food anymore, because airplanes can't fly, because of an increase in space debris. This is an immediate impact, it's feasible, and the magnitude impacts everyone, Judge. If you have a cell phone, you're affected by this impact. Communications go down, which means that nuclear war will become inevitable at the point where no one can tell what's going on in the status quo, which means that you're voting off of the disadvantage impact before you vote off of any of the things in the affirmative. But we're going to get to why those don't solve. Yes?
I'd say if they're going to go for saying that at the point at which the space station is implemented, then that means there's no trips, but our impacts come before that. So
yeah, they're going to say like when the space station is implemented, it's going to decrease trips. But at the point where the impact is triggered by any increase in space, space debris, that means that you need to be voting on the disadvantage first. Now, let's go on to the counter plan. They say in their perm that they're going to do the affirmative and the negative at the same time. When we asked them how you can functionally boycott something and simultaneously do it, they said, quote, Matthew said, we are not boycotting the affirmative plan. That's a quote from his mouth in CrossX. If you're not boycotting the affirmative plan, then you're not doing the counter plan. Because the counter plan is to boycott the affirmative until we do the Chinese Exclusion Act. At the point where Matthew said in his own words that they're not boycotting the affirmative plan, they're not doing the perm, which means you can extend across the counter plan as the only way to solve for space debris and backlash, which we talk about how this is going to increase international relationships as a result of the advantage to the counter plan, which goes untouched by the affirmative, and another unique reason why you should be voting for the affirmative, because we're solving for something else. Now, let's go to the affirmative case. Even if you don't buy any of the words that just came out of my mouth, you can't vote for the affirmative on solvency. At the point where they say that that NASA's budget is going to be implemented over multiple years, that means that solvency is going to be implemented over multiple years, which means that they directly bite the turn my partner brings up about how false hope decreases the life and quality of life for patients who suffer from these diseases, which the affirmative talks about how awful they are. When they bite into something as heinous as providing people who suffer from terminal diseases that cause life-threatening impacts, you cannot vote for a team that perpetuates false hope for these patients. Additionally, they specifically talk about how fiat solves for any medical research arguments. Fiat solves for them providing infrastructure, not for the research being carried out, not for the research resulting in vaccines, not for the research producing any kind of treatment which might solve the diseases in the aforementioned affirmative advocacy. Because they can't offer solvency, because they don't have a perm, and because our impacts are more probable and happening quicker, you need to be voting for the negative. Thank you.
So we're going to go disadvantage, counter plan. We're going to, and then we're just going to go on case. On advantage 2, we're only touching the term. Would you like that again?
Yes, please.
DA, counter plan, on case, like solvency, and then advantage 2, advantage 1.
Okay.
Okay. On their disadvantage, it didn't start. On their disadvantage, go directly to the dropped analysis on the status quo argument, where the status quo causes the disadvantage that Matthew brought up that went unresponded to, where he talked about the Mars mission and how they are already massively sending launches into space, and the status quo literally causes this disadvantage. He said there's no link because the status quo is already doing this. This disadvantage is completely non-unique. At the point where they drop the status quo is causing the disadvantage. You cannot apply the disadvantage to our plan because we don't. Not only do we not link to it, it's also happening in the status quo, completely irrelevant in today's debate round. However, go to the turn that Matthew puts where he said the medical center solves for multiple launches. That's that's one of the main points of creating a medical research center on the surface of the moon is to reduce the launches in the long run. They're saying, well, you're going to have to make more launches in order to get to the moon to build it in the first place. However, in the long run, as Matthew pointed out, the whole point is to reduce the launches. They never talked about how the whole point is to reduce the launches in the long run. They said, well, you're going to have to make more launches. If even more, like one more launch goes, then you're biting into the disadvantage. At the point where they dropped Matthew's turn, saying that the purpose of it is to reduce launches in the long run, we flow through that, and the disadvantage completely does not link to our case. Just to note, there's literally no offense on this page. It's completely defense, saying, well, you do this, you do this. They don't put any points of offense. They really don't flow through their impacts that much, and at the point where it doesn't link to needs to go disregarded. Let's go down to their counter plan. They failed to, on the perm, they failed to read the perm text that was handed to them literally after Matthew's speech, where we stated we are going to be boycotting the China Exclusionary Act and while passing our plan. The purpose of a perm is to combine the plan text and the counter plan text, just the non-competitive parts. If they read the the perm text.
Any words about non-competitive is new.
It's literally like the first 45 seconds I spit out kind of like.
Well, I think it's under consideration.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
You're
You ready?
I'm not the judge.
So if they read the perm text that was handed to them, they would see what we pointed out was that we're boycotting the China Exclusionary Act while passing our plan. This is absolutely able to be flowed through. As Matthew pointed out, there's nothing stopping us from boycotting the China Exclusionary Act while passing the medical research. So the perm flows through, it won't work. So gut check this, Judge. You can literally, at the point where you can, boycott an act and still pass a medical research center, there's no reason to vote for this, for the counter plan. Just vote for the plan that directly saves lives, which went dropped under Advantage 1. Now let's go down to solvency. Under solvency, they say, well, first you won't have enough funds to do this. In reality, Judge, they completely disregard our solvency point 2 and 3, as well as our funding point that say, look, this is, we pointed out in background, this is what NASA's budget is. However, the funding, as was pointed out in the plan, comes from the deficit spending. $583 billion was deficit spending just in 2015 alone. When our plan is costing $35 billion to enact, we will be able to cover this. At the point where they disregard our funding sources, you can't flow through this argument. Now go down to Advantage 2, where they put a turn saying you're going to be creating false hope. Listen to Matthew's response, where he said the only way to find a cure and to be able to bring hope to people is to build a medical research facility. They're saying that you're only guaranteeing the building of this, you're not guaranteeing the research. It is a medical research facility. We fund the entire process. This will be funded. The only way to solve a disease is to increase research, which is the entire point of our plan. Let's go down to some impact calculation. You'll be voting for us on the issue of probability. It is way more probable that lives will be saved at the end of the day than nuclear war, than the economy collapsing, as they brought up. They dropped the first impact under Advantage 1, which laid out how many lives are lost every single year due to osteoporosis, which is 11,000 people a month, actually, and an osteoporosis-related fracture occurs every 3 seconds just inside the United States. At the point where they drop this impact completely, we absolutely guarantee access to this. We will be saving lives. We will be helping these people who have these fractures in the status quo. It is more probable that we will be saving the 11,000 lives that are lost every single month and helping people with these fractures than it is for the economy to crash, for nuclear war to immediately result, which we show does not link to our plan. At the end of the day, you need to be voting on probability. Also magnitude, because at the point where we are able to guarantee access to saving lives, that is the largest issue in today's debate round, because their impacts don't link to our case and we have direct access to these impacts. You'll also be voting for our plan on reversibility. At the point where we guarantee that lives are being lost in the status quo and we will be able to reverse that, you need to vote for this plan. Economies go back and forth all the time. Their impacts are reversible. However, on the point of lives being lost, you cannot get a life back. So at the end of the day, Judge, the only way to give a cure to the people who suffer from these diseases is to build a medical research facility in the first place.
Good job.
Wow, I thought you guys were awesome.
I'm going to stop the recording though.
Awesome, awesome. Very good.